I must, however, before proceeding further, try to explain what I mean by immediate experience. And I will begin by pointing out a possible sense of this term which I desire to exclude. The unconscious, or the subconscious, may stand merely for that which I do not notice or notice specially. And it may stand again merely for that which, though I am aware of it, is no object before me. But these words, on the other hand, may bear a more extreme meaning. The unconscious may signify something which is more than anything which, at any moment, I actually feel, or in any sense, actually am aware of. The unconsciousness, in this sense, is still psychical, and it is continuous with my psychical contents. But it is outside all that at any moment I experience as mine. The matter contained in these two compartments, of the unconscious and conscious, may itself be to any extent one and indivisible, and may itself thus constitute a single world. But across this matter, a line of demarcation is drawn, and while on one side of this line I feel and am aware, on the other side I have no actual experience at all. Across this opaque barrier may come to me influences or even messages, but the barrier can never be transparent. The influences or messages to be anything for me must take their place as elements in the region of my feeling and consciousness. And outside that region, I do not experience them. They belong, in a word, to the unconscious. On the other hand, the barrier, though opaque, is shifting. It may from time to time be moved so as to include elements which before were outside it, and this inclusion does but embrace what before was somehow psychical, though not experienced as mine. In something like this sense, the unconscious, whatever its previous history, has been used widely in various applications by German philosophy since the beginning of the last century. It attained popularity in the well-known work of von Hartmann in 1869, and has lately threatened to invade our literature under the specious title of the subliminal self. Against any interpretation here of immediate experience in the above sense, I would desire especially to warn the reader. Outside that of which a man is aware, there is, I agree, a larger world of experience. The content of this world, I again agree, is, in a sense, continuous with that which directly fills his consciousness. But he cannot experience the former content immediately, and, were he to do so, then, as it seems to me, the man's self would be destroyed. The position of the line dividing these two worlds no doubt may fluctuate. More and less of content may come from time to time within the man's feeling center. But so long as that center exists, there is a world within it which is experienced immediately, and a world without it which is not, in this sense, experienced at all. To call this world the region of the unconscious, if this merely means that the man cannot be directly aware of it, to myself would be misleading. But, in any other case, this world is outside his immediate experience. Whether tracts of a man's consciousness can under any conditions be wholly split off, and so exist independently, I am unable to say. If, however, this takes place, the principle remains unaffected, for we have forthwith two more centers of immediate experience not directly connected. I use, in brief, immediate experience to stand for that which is comprised wholly within a single state of undivided awareness or feeling, as against any unconscious in the sense of falling outside. This is immediate, as being my actual conscious experience. And further, it is immediate, as against those other special and mediated developments, which throughout rest on it, and, while transcending, still remain within itself. I will now, dismissing all further reference to the unconscious, attempt briefly to explain this difficult and most important sense of immediacy. Questions at once arise, on some of which we may first touch in passing. A. Was there, and is there, in development of the race and the individual, a stage at which experience is merely immediate? And further, do we all, perhaps, at moments sink back to such a level? We all, at least usually, have in what we experience the distinction of subject and object, or, At any rate, it may not mean the same thing, the awareness of an object as a not-self. If we like to take consciousness as the state in which we experience a not-self, we may thus ask if there ever was or ever is an experience which is in this sense wholly subconscious. In such a state, there would be feeling, but there would not be an object present as an other. And we should so far not be aware of any distinction between that which is felt and that which feels. For myself, I think it probable that such a stage of mind, not only with all of us, comes first in fact, but that at times it recurs even in the life of the developed individual. But it is impossible for me to enter further on the matter here. See Mind, Old Series, volume number 47. What I would here insist is, the point of that feeling, so understood, need not be devoid of internal diversity. Its content need not in this sense be simple, and possibly never is simple. By feeling, in short, I understand, and I believe always have understood, an awareness, which, though non-relational, may comprise simply in itself an indefinite amount of difference. There are no distinctions in the proper sense, and yet there is a many felt in one. We may thus verify even here what we may call, if we please, an undeveloped ideality. And only this, but such a whole admits in itself a conflict and struggle of elements, not of course experienced as a struggle, but as a discomfort, unrest, and uneasiness. We may, I think, go on to add that the whole in this feeling can feel itself present in one part of its content, in a sense in which it does not so feel itself in another part. And of course, change in its contents will be felt, though not experienced properly as change. Nor do I see reason to doubt that the laws of redintegration, and also of fusion, if we admit such a law, will hold in this field. B. I have thought it better to deal so far with the stage, real or supposed, where experience is merely immediate. But, in order to avoid controversy, I shall in this chapter consider this no further. And for our present purpose, we need not assume that such a stage of mere feeling is even possible. I shall take here experience to exist always at the level where there is a distinction of object and subject, and a theoretical and practical relation holding between them. Footnote. We may, as was noted above, speak of this stage as consciousness, in contrast with mere feeling. I do not mean, of course, that this relation itself always exists for consciousness in the form of a relation proper, uniting and dividing two terms. On the contrary, we have no such object. I must insist, except so far as we have reached self-consciousness, and to suppose we are always self-conscious would, to myself, seem absurd. It is, however, impossible for me here to discuss these questions on which I have entered elsewhere. See Appearance and Reality, and consult Mind, New Series, number 46. And I must pass on to emphasize a further point, which seems here all-important. C. Whether there is a stage where experience is merely immediate, I have agreed to leave doubtful. Feeling is transcended always, if you please, in the sense that we have always contents which are more than merely felt. But, on the other side, at no moment can feeling ever be transcended, if this means that we are to have contents which are not felt. In a sense, therefore, we never can at any time pass beyond immediate experience. The object not self, and again the object and subject related before my mind, all this is more than mere feeling. But again, the whole of it would be nothing for me unless it came to me as felt. And that any actual experience should fall somewhere outside of feeling seems impossible. At every moment my state, whatever else it is a whole, which I am immediately aware. It is an experienced non-relational unity of many in one. Footnote. I need not ask here if it is possible for my experience to consist of one single feeling, and object and subject in every possible relation and term, to be experienced at all, must fall within and depend vitally on such a felt unity. At any moment, my actual experience, however relational its contents, is in the end non-relational. No analysis into relations and terms can ever exhaust its nature, or fail, in the end, to belly its essence. Footnote. Consult Chapter 10. End footnote. What analysis leaves forever outstanding is no mere residue, but is a vital condition of the analysis itself. Everything which is got out into the form of an object implies still the felt background against which the object comes, and further, the whole experience of both feeling and object is a non-relational, immediate felt unity. The entire relational consciousness, in short, is experienced as falling within a direct awareness. This direct awareness is itself non-relational. It escapes from all attempts to exhibit it by analysis as one or more elements in a relational scheme, or as that scheme itself, or as a relation or relations, or as the sum or collection of any of these abstractions. And immediate experience not only escapes, but it serves as the basis analysis is made. Itself is the vital element within which every analysis still moves. Well, insofar as, and however much, that analysis transcends immediacy. Everything, therefore, no matter how objective and how relational, is experienced only in feeling, and, so far as experienced, still depends upon feeling. On the other side, the objective and the relational transcend the state of mere feeling, and, in a sense, are opposed to it. But we must be aware, here, of an error. We cannot speak of a relation between immediate experience and that which transcends it, except by a license. It is a mode of expression found convenient in our reflective thinking, but it is in the end not defensible. A relation exists only between terms, and those terms to be known as such must be objects. And hence, immediate experience taken as the term of a relation becomes so far a partial object, and ceases so far to keep its nature as a felt totality. The relation, so to express ourselves, of immediate experience to its felt contents, and specially here to those contents which transcend it, must be taken simply as a fact. It can neither be explained nor even, to speak properly, described, since description necessarily means translation into objective terms and relations. We possess, on the one side, a fact directly felt and experienced. On the other side, we attempt a description imperfect and half-negative. And our attempt is justified so far as the description seems true, so far, that is, as though inadequate, it does not positively jar. And again, it is felt positively to agree with our felt experience. D. There are several points which I cannot discuss here, but may notice in passing. Footnote. Consult Appearance, Chapters 9 and 10. End footnote. The felt background, against which the object comes, remains always immediate. But, on the other hand, its content may, to some extent, show mediation. Parts of this content may have at some time been elements included in the object, and may have been internally distinguished into relations and terms. However, nonetheless now, this relational content forms part of the felt background. Again, in the object not self, on the other side, we may find tracks, the contents of which have never been analyzed. They are, so to speak, nebulae, in which the non-relational form still persists internally, and in which the complexity does not go beyond simple sensuous coherence. And, as we saw in the case of an emotion, the matter contained in these nebulae, and in the not-self, generally, is continuous, as to its content with that matter, which remains merely felt. It is impossible, however, here, to enlarge on these questions, and I cannot ask here how far the not-self, both in its origin and its essence, is distinctively practical. Nor can I point out how far, and in what sense, we have special not-selves, depending on various relations, permanent and transitory, to special selves. I must hasten onwards to attempt to deal directly with the main problem of the present chapter. I will, however, before proceeding, venture to repeat and insist upon this main conclusion. Immediate experience is not a stage which may or may not, at some time, have been there, and has now ceased to exist. It is not in any case removed by the presence of a not-self, and of a relational consciousness. All that is thus removed is at most, we may say, the mereness of immediacy. Every distinction and relation still rests on an immediate background of which we are aware, and every distinction and relation, so far as experienced, is also felt, and felt in a sense to belong to an immediate totality. Thus, in all experience, we still have feeling, which is not an object. And at all our moments, the entirety of what comes to us, however much distinguished and relational, is felt as comprised within a unity, which itself is not relational.